This video describes how to set up the ServiceNow ITOM operational intelligence application using the guided setup process. ITOM guided setup steps you through the process of setting up OI, including configuring your mid servers, defining metrics to monitor, defining connectors to collect metrics, and defining event rules to generate alerts for anomalies. You'll need at least one ServiceNow mid server in your IT system to support OI. Watch this video to learn how to set up a mid server. To start the setup, we'll go to ITOM Guided Setup and get started. Guided Setup can help you set up several ITOM apps. For this demo, we'll go straight to OI. The first setup step is configuring our mid servers to support OI. This list shows all the mid servers in our instance. For this demo, we only need one. We'll open the mid server form, edit the list of supported applications, and make sure Service Analytics is in the supported list. Next, we'll edit the list of capabilities and make sure ITOA metrics is in the capabilities list. We'll go back to the mid servers list and mark this step as complete. Next, we'll assign our mid servers to distributed clusters. The mid servers in each cluster automatically distribute the workload amongst themselves to balance the load. Here we have one cluster containing the mid server we just configured. You can edit this list to add or remove mid servers. For more information, read Mid Servers and Mid Server Distributed Clusters for Operational Intelligence in the product documentation. Next, we'll create the Mid Web Server extension. This extension collects metric data pushed by sources in our IT system. We'll give it a name and a description. We'll execute on our mid server, and we'll listen for requests on port 9060. Instead of key-based authentication, we'll use basic. The user will be admin, and we'll define a password. Sources will use this name and password when sending data to the mid server. Now we'll submit and mark this step as complete. For more information, read Configure the Mid Web Server extension in the product documentation. Next, we'll create the OI extension. This extension detects anomalies in the metric data and sends the data and anomaly events to the instance. We'll give it a name and a description. Like before, we'll execute on our mid server. To enable the OI extension to collect metric data pushed by sources in our IT system, we'll enable the REST listener and associate it with the web server extension we just defined. We'll submit and mark this step as complete. For more information, read Configure the Operational Intelligence extension in the product documentation. Now we'll start the Mid Web Server extension. We'll just open the extension and start. When the status is started, the extension is running. And now we'll start the OI extension. Again, we'll just open the extension and start. Like before, when the status is started, the extension is running. And that completes the task of configuring the mid servers. The next task is to specify which metrics to monitor, and the first step is to configure how metrics from different sources are handled. OI supports a wide variety of metric sources. For each one, you can specify whether to automatically generate a new OI metric for an unknown metric in the raw data, whether to use or ignore these automatically generated metrics, and whether to automatically generate a new CI in the CMDB for a CI in the raw data that can't be mapped to an existing CI in the CMDB. For more information, read Create or Configure Metric Type Registration in the product documentation. Next, we'll specify which metrics to monitor. This list shows all the metric types from all sources. You can specify whether each one is to be used by OI. Using a large number of metric types can impact system performance, so choose only the ones you need. For more information, read Choose and Configure Metrics to Monitor in the product documentation. And that completes the task of specifying which metrics to monitor. The next task is to define OI connectors to pull metrics from sources in our system. The first step is to choose which sources we want to pull metrics from. OI has connectors for a wide variety of sources. Here's a tip to make it easier to choose the ones you want. We'll open the context menu next to any column heading, configure the list layout, and add the Collect Metrics field to the list. Now we can just run down the list and choose the ones we want. For more information, read Create a Connector definition in the product documentation. The next step is to define connector instances to pull metrics from specific sources. Here are our current instances. Each connector instance can collect events for event management and metrics for OI. Some key values here are the IP address and port of the metrics database and the credential for the database. The Connector Instance Values list lets you set the connection parameters for the instance, depending on the connector type. These parameters are for SCOM. This list shows the mid-servers that OI can use to communicate with the metrics host. And finally, once you complete and save this form, you can verify that the connector can communicate with the metrics host. When we're done with our connector instances, we'll mark this step as complete. For more information, read Configure a Connector Instance in the product documentation. The last task is to define event rules to process anomaly events that OI generates for metrics that are outside the normal range, and generate anomaly alerts for the event management process. Event rules is a big topic, so we won't go into detail here. For more information, read Create Event Rules in the product documentation or watch Event Rules in this video series. The video includes an example for OI metrics. That completes the OI setup process. Going forward, you can update any of these OI resources anytime by updating the corresponding list or form. For more information, please consult our product documentation, knowledge base, or podcast, or ask a question in the ServiceNow community.